Lies of P may be one of the best Souls-likes ever made. From its story to combat and of course its bosses, this game is special. What's up nerds and welcome to Endgame. I'm Hoops4 and today I will be ranking every boss in Lies of P from worst to best. As far as Souls-likes go, Lies of P is one of the best at following the known Souls formula, but it absolutely has its own twists. Things like the Legion arm that I thought would be a gimmick ended up being an incredibly useful tool and a staple for the game. As developer NeoWiz's first foray into the genre, I was cautiously optimistic at what the end product would be. After all, the demo played great and gameplay previews looked smooth, but you never know. However, after having my hands on the game, my fears have entirely subsided, and I clearly see this incredible title for what it is. But every Souls-like needs to have good bosses. No, great bosses to really catch the player's attention and highlight the combat on show. Lies of P is no exception, so here is my ranking of every boss in Lies of P from worst to best. These are just my opinions, so let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. With that out of the way, let's enter gaming.
Enter gaming.
Number 18, Puppet of the Future. Coming in last is the Puppet of the Future. There is just not much to this fight. Your first encounter with this boss is in Vignini's factory, and it is an optional boss in a layer of poison that will start draining your health pretty much instantly. Luckily, you are rewarded for exploring, and a lever nearby drains the poison. Unfortunately, this is the highlight of the fight. Puppet of the Future follows the standard trend of nip at the heels of the overly large boss until you can get some bigger damage. This is not inherently bad, but the pacing is so incredibly slow with a bland design that leaves this boss just feeling more like a chore than a methodical fight. Future Puppet has your typical stomps and swings, and it spins to send its balls on its arms towards you. But the slow speed and easy tells just make it a punishment for being greedy and running out of stamina, and that's about all. This is one of the only bosses that are repeated, as you find two of these guys in a field later in the game. But they follow mostly the same formula, except there are massive arrows shot at you from afar. I think the best way to sum up Puppet of the Future is just that it's simply boring and underwhelming. Number 17, Door Guardian. Not the last clear FromSoft inspiration to land on this list, but Door Guardian is just like Demon Souls' Tower Knight, but without the archers. Similar to the Puppet of the Future, focus the unarmored leg of the Door Guardian enough and he will tumble. Use this to deal massive damage to his head. Repeat this a couple of times and move on. He has a simple moveset of stomps and swings, especially with his corrupted crystal arm. But he also applies the incredibly annoying shock status effect, which brings your stamina recovery to an absolute crawl. Overall, this fight was okay, but nothing more than that. Just an exercise in patience and resource management with an oversized annoyance. Luckily, this is just about the closest thing in Lies of P to a gimmick fight, which is a fantastic sign for fights to come. From the large oversized bosses to the small, next up I am going to bundle all of the NPC fights together. If you're familiar with Souls games, these are your typical NPC fights or Black Phantom battles that focus in more towards a PvE feeling compared to the big beasties. These NPC fights are fun, but nothing crazy or mesmerizing. A couple of them have unique movesets, I especially like the Dance of the White Lady, but these are largely optional fights that are just a fun change of pace. The others I fought on my playthrough include Mad Donkey, Robber Weasel, the Atoned, the Owl Doctor, the Survivor, the Black Cat, and the Red Fox. Number 15, Black Rabbit Brotherhood. The first fight with the Black Rabbit Brotherhood is an interesting take on a gank fight. You target the eldest brother, and his health bar is what matters. But at certain intervals in the fight, his other brothers join the fray with mini boss-size health bars. They all fight differently, with the youngest being a quick assassin, the eccentric being a spear wielder, and the battle maniac brother wielding a rapier like the White Lady. All of these introductions take place while managing a fight with an abnormally quick eldest brother that can gap close instantly and has unlimited stamina. Luckily, they do tend to switch aggro as long as you aren't near the eldest brother, in which case he will attack anyway. But as far as ganks go, it's pretty forgettable, even though I understand the direction they took this fight. The ridiculous moveset and abilities of the eldest brother just throw the whole thing out of whack in my opinion. Number 14, Black Rabbit Brotherhood Part 2. The second fight with the Black Rabbit Brotherhood is a clear homage to the Shadows of Yharnam. While Shadows are the far superior fight, this battle is definitely clear of the first encounter with the Brotherhood. You fight the 3 other brothers at the same time, with their 3 full boss health bars, just like the Shadows. They alternate aggro and each of them have a specific element on their weapon, so there's 3 status effects to worry about as well. Later in the fight, they release a reincarnated Elder Brother with the same obnoxious moveset and a couple more tricks. There isn't much separating this fight compared to the other one, but I definitely prefer the Shadows of Yharnam clone as a better executed gank that just feels a bit better overall. Number 13, Walker of Illusions. Walker of Illusions is an optional boss fight that could be pretty easy to miss. This fight is similar to the NPC fights, except that Walker actually has a gimmick of duplicating itself. It's not much, and I took out the clone pretty easily, leaving just a pretty basic NPC fight in its wake. It does get credit for being pretty atmospheric. The abandoned attic you fight in is really fitting alongside the sporadic and creepy movements of the Walker. I just wish the gimmick felt a bit more meaningful to really separate this fight from the other humanoid and NPC fights. Overall, it's pretty forgettable, but it's better than the other ganks and NPCs so far. Number 12, Clown Puppet. Let me just start by saying, I hate this thing. I get hit by every freaking attack of this boss. Its odd and sporadic movements just don't give much of a tell, and it laughs as it smacks you around. It's creepy and unsettling, and it has the worst boss run in the game. Liza P does an amazing job with reasonable or even non-existent boss runs. But this one, since you fight it in the middle of a street, has a painful run, and you have to deal with its cronies just so you can safely fight this monstrosity. It's not hard. I know it's not hard, but something about its oddly fluid movements just make it so off-putting that I could not get a rhythm at all in this fight. In my second playthrough it was easier, but man, the first time I encountered this, I wanted to tear my hair out. It's creative and better than everything else this far into the list, but if I can avoid this thing in the future, I absolutely will for the sake of my own sanity. Number 11, King's Flame Fuoco. Fuecoco is here, and it has so much potential. This fight is cool, but I actually wish they went into the flame theme even more. Obviously, you have to be careful with status effects, especially this early into the game, but I feel like there was so much potential for a fight with a literal furnace puppet, and instead, the first half of the fight consists of charges and hammer swings. I think because it's pretty early in the game, the devs had to be a bit more reserved about it than maybe they would have liked to have been, which is a shame. I feel like a furnace-themed puppet later in the game could have had some wild moves, and instead they had to be more tame here. It also doesn't help that there are a total of 3 bosses all within like 2 rooms of each other, so I think they really had to make sure the area was balanced with that in mind. It just shouldn't take until phase 2 to see any fire come out of the furnace. Is that too much to ask? Number 10, Scrapped Watchman. Breaking open the top 10, we have the Scrapped Watchman. Being the 3rd boss in the game, it's still kind of a tone-setting boss for what to expect in Lies of P. And here's where they really let into the puppet beasts of the game, with status effects and delayed attacks to throw your perfect blocks to the wind. It has an annoying fury attack, and like I said, those delays are killer. But most of its attacks are typical swings and jumps. Watchman is really one of the first big tests of the game, and it manages this role well. You have to really manage your resources, be aware of the electric shocks, watch your weapon degradation through his sizable health pool, and watch out for the delays. His opening cinematic is so good as well. Seeing a creepy red-eyed puppet crawl out from behind a building like a spider was so cool, and the fight managed to keep reminding me that I am fighting a creepy frenzied puppet. And did I mention he has delayed attacks? Because he sure does. Number 9, Corrupted Parade Master. Reskin fights are nothing new, and actually, this one is really well done. I think this fight is great, and it brings in a few new tricks compared to the original fight, which I'll get to momentarily. The corrupted Parade Master still has his usual tricks of arm swinging and body slams, but now there are moves including his corruption. He can even spawn another corrupted enemy to fight for him. Overall, it's a really great fight, and the timing of the callback is honestly really well done. I didn't see it coming at all, and I really enjoyed fighting the Parade Master once again. Number 8, Parade Master. I almost put the OG Parade Master even higher than this, because I really think this fight is great. It doesn't have all the tricks of its late game counterpart, but the first boss in the game is so critical to setting the tone for the rest of the game. Whether it be Phalanx, Ludix Gundyr, or Father Gascoigne, the first boss is so critical and so crucial to the game's development at this early point. And in my opinion, Parade Master nails it. A great little cinematic with hints at his arrival in the opening level, a simple moveset that really tests all of your skills at this early point in the game. Can you dodge and perfect block and manage your resources? Can you understand your attack windows and timings of this game? Or will you get punished for greed? As much as I love this boss, it isn't amazing, but it is perfect for this place in the game, which earns it a solid spot in the top 10. Number 7, Green Monster of the Swamp. Green Monster of the Swamp is a great large beast boss in Lives of P. It's unsettling and has a difficult moveset to handle. It isn't until phase 2 though, the puppet devouring green monster, that it really kicks it into gear. During this phase, it has so many attacks that it's really hard to recognize its patterns and tells. It can quickly switch between moves from each of its phases, and a couple of its new moves are especially deadly. It has a wild tentacle attack that if you don't dodge, you will end up with decay ruining your day. Or if not, you'll just face the game over screen rather quickly. I just wish this fight was a little more. It's very difficult at this point in the game. It's arguably the toughest boss so far. However, it has been talked about for hours at this point that there is a big green monster at the end of the swamp that eats puppets, and I just wish I felt like it conveyed that true fear a little better after all of the build-up. But don't let that take away from the fact that this is a difficult and rewarding fight that really tests your mettle. It's a great fight overall. Number 6, Champion Victor. Champion Victor is Bane brought to Lies of P, and it's a shining example of less is more. I love this fight. It's simple. Let's put you in a ring with the champion, and have it out. By the way, he is corrupted, and he was just trying to get turned into a god, but, have fun. And I sure did have fun. He just wants to get up close and personal with charges, kicks, and punches. He has plenty of fury attacks in a healthy health pool, but he just does what he does so well. It's not the easiest fight in the world, but it is totally manageable. His mid-health bar transformation is amazing and really showcases, from a story standpoint, the kind of sick and twisted devices that we are trying to stop. Champion Victor is a champ to me. Number 5, Laxasia the Complete. Now, here is an incredible boss that gets in its own way by being difficult just for the sake of it. Laxasia the Complete is so incredibly difficult, and it just feels a bit forced. Her first phase is fine. Basically, it's a heavily armored version of the eldest brother of the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. And yet, another example of there's no reason why she should be able to move that fast while in that much armor and with a sword of that size, but, okay. She shows off some lightning powers, but you may not think too much of it. Until phase 2. She opens phase 2 by shedding her armor and opening herself up entirely to her godlike lightning powers. The first thing she does is fly in the sky and start shooting lightning balls at you. It's all downhill from here. She flies around the arena to where you can barely hit her, and she deals a ridiculous amount of damage. Seriously, forget the Door Guardian, she is the real gatekeeper to the rest of the game, and shows the power that can be gained from these experiments of godhood. All in all, she is a great fight, but she's just a little too hard for what she should be at this point in the game. Number 4, Fallen Archbishop Andreas. I absolutely love the setup, the introduction, the cinematics, the thematic, everything about this fight is amazing. Except the fight itself, which I feel like is only great and knocks everything else down a tier. After getting the whole story and background of the church on the hill and the pilgrimages and how important it was, the way my jaw actually dropped when the cinematic came and showed the fallen archbishop and what he had become. Incredible stuff. The first phase of the fight has more typical charges and slams, with some tongue attacks for good measure, but the second phase adds more variety as the bishop comes in as the self-proclaimed one-wing angel and starts wildly swinging his staff around. All the clues and hints and environmental storytelling of this section of the game built so well to this fight. And while it was a cinematic and certainly memorable fight, and one that really showed the Bloodborne influence outright, I just wish it had a few more angles to push it up a notch. If so, we may be looking at the best fight in the game, but as it stands, the fallen Archbishop Andreas falls just outside the top 3. Number 3. Simon Manus, Arm of God. At this point, these last fights could be switched around in any order, and on another day, I would see the reasoning. As of now, I see Simon Manus Arm of God as the third best fight in the game. After building so long to the end of the game, it really reaches a climax here, and it works so well. Seeing the deformity that is Simon Manus is incredible. How deranged and deformed he is, as he is so far gone, trying to become a god with the power of Ergo. Phase 1 sees him swing his hammer around while showing off some newfound powers as well. It's a well-balanced fight that ends up being a little on the easy side for the late game, but that's balanced by the difficult and memorable Phase 2. At this point, Simon Manus, Awakened God, sends you to fight in a shadow arena as he throws distortion spells and lightning from the sky towards you. It's cinematic, and it's tough as nails. This fight is absolutely a worthy in-game boss that really feels like it epitomizes what Lies of P has been about, and what you have been fighting for and against this whole time. Especially after the revelations with Sophia fresh in your mind, this is a fantastic cap on Lies of P. Number 2, King of Puppets. The midpoint of the game is capitalized by a stunning fight with the King of Puppets. The entire first half of the game builds towards this enemy, and this boss is well deserving of a top 2 spot, and honestly, it vies for number 1. The King shows such grace for a big guy, and his phase feels like a dance of puppets between King and Rebel. A simple phase as he swings his arms and dances about, but later he adds in some wind attacks as his hands spin like turbines. It's a really nice and simple phase that really capitalizes on the entire first half of the game. Then, in one of the best transitions of the game, Romeo, King of Puppets, busts out of his suit to fight you mano-a-mano for Phase 2. It's a Gehrman-esque fight as he wields a scythe and dashes about wildly doing massive damage. However, it's a different kind of wild compared to, let's say, Lysacia, as you can actually hit Romeo in clear windows to punish him, including the occasional puppet malfunction. This fight is absolutely amazing through and through, and on another day, like I said, it could take the top spot. Number 1. Nameless Puppet. Surrender or fight. One last homage to Bloodborne leads to the best boss in the game. The Nameless Puppet has 2 phases of fast-paced combat, and the second phase really takes it up a notch further with fast-paced complex combos, plenty of dashing, powerful magic, and dual-wielding weapons. Beating the Nameless Puppet is no easy feat. You need every tactic you've learned over the course of the game to best it. And of course, victory leads to one of the most satisfying feelings in gaming. Nameless Puppet really is the best fight in the game, and NeoWiz saved the best for last. The consequences of the storyline up to this point are clear and evident, and your worst fears are realized. You start to really understand the importance of your lack of grand covenant, the role of your lies and feelings, and who your enemies really are. The Nameless Puppet is a blank slate that could be anything or anyone. It's inconspicuous and unspecific, and yet, it's your most deadly foe and the best fight in the game. And there you have it. That is every boss in Lies of P ranked from worst to best. Let me know your thoughts on this list down in the comments below. If you made it this far, be sure to like the video and consider subscribing to the channel for more lists, discussions, reviews, and plenty more. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Hoops4, this is InGame, and I will see you nerds on the next one. Peace. Thank you for watching, right here on InGame. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more content.